When has someone who clearly knew nothing tried to explain your own job to you? Emergency medical technician here. Went to a chest pain call-out for an older guy. The wife kept insisting that he just needed a few more sprays of her GTN, a potent and potentially dangerous oral spray used to treat angina, and that he'd be fine after that. She'd already administered goodness knows how much before we got there, which had tanked his blood pressure to dangerously low levels. Also, after checking him over, it became pretty clear that the pain was a result of a chest infection and not a cardiac event. So, as we transport him and try to prevent him from dying from the overdose of medicine she gave him, she's still harping on that we need to give him more because she knows it will work. When we turn our backs, she whips out a bottle of it and tries to give him another couple of doses. After we confiscated it and sat her back down, she demanded we let her use our truck cell phone to call our manager and complain that we were idiots and didn't know our job. When we got to the hospital, she tried to convince the staff there to dose her husband with unnecessary and potentially lethal medication. When we left, I noticed security attempting to disarm her of her bottle of GTN. We gave it back when we got to the ER. Presumably, she tried to dose him again. I'm a travel consultant. I've been working in the hotel world for 15 years, working in hotels as front desk, sales, group block coordinator, reservations, sales agent, and now I'm a travel consultant. There was an Ask Reddit thread, I forget what it was for, but someone was harping on about how the hotel couldn't refund them. How dare they tell me to contact Expedia? Many of the people responding to that person were like, "You go, girl, you report that place," or something along those lines. I wrote a response to it and said, actually, the hotel really can't refund you if you went through Expedia. You didn't pay the hotel, you paid Expedia. But Expedia bought the room for the hotel, and therefore I did pay the hotel. No, the room was Expedia's to sell and you bought it, and the hotel can't refund you. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't because Expedia has your payment, not the hotel. The third party doesn't provide anything to the hotel other than the dates of stay, your room type, and that's it. They don't even tell us your phone number most of the time. Sometimes they give us a throwaway email. Well, that's bullcrap. Rabble, rabble, rabble. Well, no, that's not bullcrap. Imagine I bought 10 candy bars from the grocery store and then sold those candy bars at whatever price I decided was profitable. The people who brought those candy bars could not go to the grocery store and complain that something was wrong with it and demand a refund from them because they didn't buy those candy bars from the grocery store. They brought them from me. That store may even have a nice refund policy, but I may have a non-refundable policy. And because you brought it from me, you're subject to whatever policy I have in place. Much like buying a room off Expedia. I got this biblical flood of responses from people who claimed to be like, "I work front desk, I don't know what you're talking about." And other people who claim to be avid travelers going, "That's bullcrap, the hotel should do something, rabble, rabble, rabble." Come on, it's literally one of the most basic pieces of training you get in a hotel environment, that if you pay a third party for your reservation, any changes or refunds have to go through that company. I reckon none of these people who responded to me actually work in travel at all. I'm a physician. My mum knows more about medicine than me. I don't even try. Doctor here, my mum also knows more about medicine than me. Let's face the facts, no matter our training, our respective mums will always know more than us. It's just how it works. Social worker here. I had a banker try to tell me that human trafficking didn't exist, because she had never personally met anyone who'd been a victim.
Well, actually, Canon don't make professional cameras.
Okay, buddy. Me, a working photographer. Working in VFX, you will now and again expose someone to a naturally photographed shot you haven't worked on yet, only to hear it looks fake. Similarly, a shot in which many things are indeed fake, some yutz will inevitably pick out a real object and say it needs to be redone to fit in better.
It just doesn't look like a natural part of the scene.
Say what?
It looks too synthetic.
It's a physical prop shot in camera.
Well, what did you do to it?
I let light fall on it in front of a light sensor. Also in VFX and animation, and the amount of people who think the computer literally does everything for you is maddening. One lady couldn't fathom why they would pay me to do my job when
the computer just does it all for you anyway. It can't be that hard.
Trust me, I wouldn't be working this much overtime if I clicked the rig or sim button and had my entire asset or shot instantly done for me. I'm an explosive ordnance disposal technician. For some reason, there's a ton of combat engineers who think that they can do my job better than I can. This was told to me by a coworker. While he was standing around, he saw a Humvee screeching towards him and his team. The terrain was very bumpy and the vehicle was bouncing around. A combat engineer pulls up, gets out, and says he has to show them something they need to help him with. In the bed, there's an armed anti-tank mine that wasn't even secured or anything. They immediately screamed at him and cleared the area of other personnel. They asked him what the frick he was thinking, and he was absolutely convinced that only the pressure of a tank running over the mine could have detonated it. He was very wrong. It could have gone off while it was bouncing around in the bed of the vehicle. He wouldn't listen, and he was absolutely convinced that he was correct. Fricking moron is lucky to be alive. Well, he survived that ordeal but probably got himself killed at some point after the fact. My buddy and his team moved the mine to a safe location and blew it in place. My coworkers do stupid things, but not to things that actually blow up. Wow. I used to run a pub, and there's a classic saying. Everyone knows how to do two jobs, their own and running a pub. I work for a tea shop. Before this, I worked in another tea shop in Britain. I once had a customer insist that green tea was caffeine-free. It's not, if you were wondering. I'd like to clear up a few misconceptions about tea, but first I would like to state that I'm not a scientist. I'm in no way a scientific expert regarding tea. I've worked in the tea business for the last 6 years, and I've had extensive training and I'm passionate about it. However, I do admit that I don't know everything there is to know about tea. However, I do know the following. 1. All tea comes from the same plant called Camellia sinensis. The flavor, properties, caffeine content changes depending on where and how it's grown, and then more importantly, how it is processed is what changes the type of tea, like black, green, yellow, oolong, white, etc. 2. Since all tea comes from the same plant, all tea has caffeine in it. The caffeine content changes based on the above methods, but also it can change every year on soil acidity, rainfall, and other things. It also changes by which leaves and which part of the leaves are used to make the tea. 3. Tea has far less caffeine than coffee. 4. Matcha tea is a green tea that's slowly grown in the shade in Japan and naturally produces more caffeine. It's then finely ground, and because of that, the consumer is ingesting everything from that plant rather than just infusing tea leaves in water, which take out some of the nutrients from the leaves. 5. Not being a scientist, I have no idea about this rinsing a tea bag method to lower the caffeine content, but I've heard it mentioned throughout the years. However, the longer you brew your cup of tea, the more caffeine you'll get out of it, so you can draw your own conclusions there. 6. If you think green tea and white teas are bitter, you're brewing them too long. No more than 3 minutes, and try to get the temperature of the water around 79 to 82 degrees Celsius or 175 to 80 Fahrenheit. If you don't have a way of telling the temperature, just let your kettle sit for a minute or two after it boils. And 7. Rooibos is a caffeine-free plant that is grown in South Africa. It has a very distinctive flavor that people either love or hate. Try it with honey and adding your own spices, and it's divine. Also, if you love milky tea, ignore the snobs and drink it like you normally would black tea. Lawyer here. Someone just told me I was a butthole because I wouldn't answer a real estate question involving a document I'd never heard of for a deal in a jurisdiction I don't practice in. They told me I had to know about it and I was just being difficult. Medical laboratory technician here. A patient told me that the blood services in our state have him on speed dial because his blood was needed to save all newborn babies. So I said, "Oh, you must be O negative," and he replied very seriously, "No, I'm O positive." When I explained that he probably was mistaken, he got very loud and condescendingly told me he's been donating for years and that if I'd paid more attention in school, I'd know the basics of how blood works. My money on well-trained professionals who consistently get told how to do their jobs by absolute morons is absolutely on medical personnel, but I might be jaded by how many videos we've done on ridiculous hospital cases. I'm a freelance graphic designer. I mainly do logos for small businesses and the like, and the amount of people who ask me to give them discounts because they could do it is absolutely ridiculous. Don't even get me started on people explaining to me why doing work for them for free will help me in the long run. I'm a mechanic by trade. A guy I know bought an older European sports car to fix up. It doesn't run, so he got it cheap. I told him that it's definitely going to cost him way more than he thinks, and it's not going to be easy for him to do it himself. Not to mention the difficulties of finding parts for it. He'd probably save money if he just bought a new one. He just blew me off and gave me some strange twisted reasoning about how he can do it cheaper and make it better. Okay, dude, whatever. So far, he's sunk thousands of dollars into it, and it still doesn't run. I believe that he's pretty well invested into the sunk cost fallacy at this point. Goodbye, retirement fund. My dad tried convincing a biology student of the importance of cryptozoology and the existence of Bigfoot. Bartender, I'm consistently amazed at how little people know about alcohol. I've got a million stories, but there's one request I've been getting a lot lately. My bar has a Long Island variation that's essentially a shot each of tequila, vodka, rum, and gin, along with peach schnapps, Sprite, and 2 very sugary fruit juices, topped with grenadine. People have been requesting this drink without the grenadine because they think that extra sugar is what's making them hungover. Nah, man, you're hungover because you just took 4 shots and consumed 80 grams of sugar. Trust me, that 1/4 ounce of grenadine is not going to make up the difference. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out Easy Mode, also linked below, and subscribe. I'm a commercial property manager. In certain commercial leases, it's the tenant's responsibility to maintain plumbing, HVAC, etc., so you don't call your manager and demand your bulbs need to be replaced or toilets leaking like you would in a residential. One of my properties had a main meter from the city, then sub-meters to the individual suites. Our meters were monitored and billed by a third party who would then let us know if a tenant's usage had spiked. We'd let the tenant know that they probably needed to investigate since something on their side of the meter was possibly leaking. We notified the tenant, he freaks out and tells us nothing is leaking. He freaks out further when his bill is 4 times higher. I tell him again, maybe you should get a plumber to investigate. He says he doesn't need a plumber because he's a water engineer. Side note, his business was one of those mailbox stores in a shopping center. Turns out his toilet was running. I'm a music producer and engineer and studio instrumentalist, and it's amazing how many of the artists I work with, many of whom are talented singers but have no knowledge of music theory or recording, think that they know better than me about it. It slows down an already tremendous process. I'm a water professional. I've been told numerous times that there are no asbestos water pipes. I've been told that would be illegal and unethical. Asbestos concrete pipes are one of the most common types of water and sewer pipes. When I bought a house, people told me not to bother with an asbestos check because it's been banned for decades. 1, it's only been banned since 2003, and 2, the house was built in the 80s. I'll leave it up to the professionals to tell me. I had someone argue with me that vaccines gave their child Down syndrome. Yep, injecting unsuspecting babies with extra chromosomes. I'm a radio presenter. I once spent 15 minutes at a dinner listening to a woman tell me that I didn't work on a certain radio station, that I'd worked on for 6 years. It was honestly the maddest thing I've ever heard. No, it's not that one. And if you really don't understand, don't worry, me neither. I once had a lady call my house 5 times in 2 minutes asking for some random person, even though I'd told her she had the wrong number and that it was only my wife and I that lived there. She said, absolutely livid, "Excuse me, I do not have the wrong number." I sell tickets at a ski resort. Last Monday we had a Rotary night where tickets are cheaper than normal and all proceeds go to charity. Tickets were $25, but if you brought them online they were $20. This one lady came up and asked for a ticket and I told her the price was $25. She got super angry and insisted that they were $20. I show her on my computer how much they are when I ring a ticket up. She claims that nowhere online does it say that the $20 tickets are online only. So I pull up our website and show her that it does indeed say that the $20 ticket is online only. At this point, she's raised her voice at me and tells me that it didn't say the same thing earlier that day, which everyone I work with knew it did. She makes me call a manager and she says the exact same thing to her and explains to her that these tickets are normally $72 and she's saving money today anyway. Plus, all proceeds go to charity. She gets angrier and states that she isn't here for charity, we normally aren't open on Mondays or Tuesday nights anyways. My manager proceeds to tell her that there's nothing we can do about the price change and that she can either buy a pass or not. She goes to find her family and comes back with her husband, who tries to say the same things. I don't make enough money to deal with this sort of crap. I'm a standard small shop barista and once a girl asked me to make her hot chocolate with a shot of espresso, which is what a mocha is since we use the same chocolate powder for both types of drinks. I tell her, "Oh, do you mean a mocha? If I charge you for a hot chocolate plus the extra shot, it will be more expensive than if I just charge you for a mocha, ma'am." She proceeds to tell me that she knows more about coffee and that the two are totally different due to the different ways we prepare the chocolate. Instead of arguing with her, I go ahead and make her the drink, but I'd already written the M for mocha on her drink label. When I hand her the drink, she proceeds to get massively angry and demand that I remake her drink like she said, a hot chocolate with an extra shot. So I go back to the bar and basically just put her old drink into a new cup with HC for hot chocolate. She takes a sip and goes,
Yep, much better.
The narrator feels that one. I can't say too much, but I've made a lot of coffees in my time, and people's placebo can be very intoxicating to them.
Pediatric nurse. So I love hearing how bad vaccines are and how medications are toxins and chemicals, how effective essential oils are, and how the fact that each nurse does certain things a little different means that it must be wrong.
NICU nurse here, and I just love when the mum who did substances during her pregnancy refuses vaccines because they're toxic or dangerous. Sure, lady. Some of these mums also love to tell you that the reason their kid is fussy is because you're failing to do something as their nurse, change the diaper or feed him enough. It couldn't possibly be because their child is withdrawing. I'm not saying that all mothers who do substances are like this. Some of them realize the harm they did and really try to help their baby and get help for themselves. Pharmacist. Have had more than one person try to convince me that their liver was special and that they'd developed a tolerance to enormous doses of Tylenol. Pro tip: you don't develop a tolerance to acetaminophen, and nobody gets to exceed 4,000 milligrams per day. Mostly these patients have developed a tolerance to hydrocodone and are looking for ridiculous fills of Vicodin. Sir, Dr. A has given you the maximum dosage. I cannot fill the prescription form from Dr. B.
Frick you, my liver is special.
And the runner-up, pick anything said by Dr. Oz. Screw Dr. Oz. I'm also a pharmacist. Every damn January, I have to spend all day explaining to people how their insurance works while they shake their heads and say no repeatedly. If I had a nickel for every butthole who swears that they've never had a deductible or insists a drug is covered by their insurance and therefore I'm wrong to collect a copay, I'd be able to afford to follow my dream, putting up giant billboards outside of Dr. Oz's home, studio, and hospital that all say, F Dr. Oz. Back in my barista days, I worked part-time at Borders. One night, a guy came in and asked for a cappuccino. I made it and he took it to go, add sugar, and came back with the snottiest attitude, asking why I didn't put whipped cream on it. I explained that whipped cream wasn't standard on a cappuccino, and he insisted that it was. I offered to put some whipped cream on it, but that wasn't sufficient. He berated me for not knowing how to make a proper cappuccino, and he lived in Seattle for years and knew coffee better than I did. Finally, I got annoyed and pointed out where he could find books about coffee and told him if he could find one that said a cappuccino was generally made with whipped cream, I'd give him a cookie. He said, "You're on," and stomped off in the direction of the books, and I never saw him again, jerk. My mum was having intermittent trouble with her internet connection. I'm in IT, and as all people in IT know, you become the family tech person. I went to investigate. Mum had a network cable running from her computer to an extra modem under her desk. The modem was connected to a coax cable running from the wall. Her house already had a modem and a wireless router. I asked her why she had a second modem under her desk. She told me that she'd complained to the man who'd installed her dishwasher that her internet wasn't working well. He had offered to take a look, and finding an extra modem in the basement fixed the problem for her. None of this really bothered me as much as how hard I had to argue with her that this wasn't helping. She was convinced that because she trusted the guy, he had to be right. She finally relented when, face in my hands, I groaned, "I do this for a fricking living." So I'm getting a few questions. First off, my stepdad had a home office that he actually worked out of. So I set up the modem and router in that office so that all of his devices could be hardwired. Since he was actually working on the internet, he took priority. Mum just casually surfed. But yeah, connecting directly to your router is great if you can do it, especially 15 years ago when wireless wasn't as reliable. Second, think of a modem as a doorway to the internet's world. The router just splits off access to that door so that multiple devices can go through it. And each door or modem has a key called a MAC address that your service provider needs so that you can walk through that door, but the world doesn't start until the line from your house hits the pole. So knowing this, a second door won't get you to the world any faster, and it certainly won't work without giving your ISP its key, MAC address. Even if you could get it to work, which I don't think you could, it would be like putting a second front door on your house. So basically, the modem under Mum's desk was just a powered-on brick that was talking to nothing. I hope that explains things, but maybe someone out there can do a better job of it. Oh, and also, the issue was a crappy aftermarket wireless card in Mum's PC that was a finicky beast. But it was so long ago I can't remember if I replaced it or suggested that she get a newer PC, or hers was near the end of her life. I think I also just moved the router a little. I did a lot of work for them over the years, it's hard to remember all the fixes. Oh, and my stepdad would slip me a $50 every now and again because he knew that, at the time, desktop support charged about $80 an hour. It was a nice gesture and filled my beer fridge. I'm a tattoo artist. I had a client try and tell me how I should go about tattooing color. She was completely wrong, by the way, and she wouldn't believe me when I tried to explain how tattooing actually worked because her cousin told her how it is. Also had someone tell me once that they thought tattooing seemed pretty easy and that they could probably do pretty well at it because they decorated cakes at Hy-Vee. Lawyer. And most clients are fine, but about 5% act like they know the law better than you because they did a Google search or read a Wikipedia article. I'll say, we can sue for A and B and not C or D. The client,
Why can't we sue for C? I read something that says we can.
I've researched on it and it's not supported by the law and we'd lose.
Put it in anyway.
I can't put in things we can't defend, they'll just get thrown out anyway and it will turn the judge off to our good claims if we include a lot of junk claims.
I don't think you're doing everything you can to win my case. Maybe I'll find another lawyer.
I love when clients who are in custody tell me the legal advice their cellmates gave them, insisting that the advice is a viable option to get them out of jail. I always ask, is your cellmate a lawyer? Or, if your cellmate's plan is so solid, why is he still in jail? When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.